The diversity of the student body is amazing because you get all sorts of different perspectives.
Almost any need or want that you have, you can find here.
There's that environment that fosters any kind of person you are.
Hopkins is the place to be.
I think the environment's really open.
The building's really nice. It's nice to have so many different random study areas.
Everyone's really smart.
Bloomberg is curious. Bloomberg is prestigious.
Bloomberg is fabulous.
It's collaborative, stimulating,
Ideal.
energetic, diverse.
Bloomberg is perfect.
Protecting lives, saving
Lives. I know the saving lives.
Well,
billions. I think we should change to billions.
there's so much going on here that in the space of a short amount of time you can do so much.
Days are busy, a lot going on.
I would say that I'm never doing the same thing on a day-to-day basis.
There are always people here to help you, professors, advisors.
People think about things in a variety of ways here.
I've never seen a place where so many people just actually have good intentions.
There's always new ideas, and there's people who are really kind of the top-level thinkers, and I really like that.
Protecting health, saving lives, millions at a time.
Protecting health, saving lives, millions at a time.
Protecting health, saving lives, millions at a time.
Millions at a time.
Millions at a time.
Millions at a time.
My name is Leslie Vink. I'm the Director of Recruitment here at the Bloomberg School of Public Health and Admissions Services. And on behalf of our Admission Services Office and the entire Student Affairs Office, I would like to be the first to congratulate each of you on your admissions and welcome you to the Bloomberg School. It's quite an accomplishment. I will be the first of many. You will hear it over and over today. People welcoming you, congratulating you. And I want to recognize first that how you got here today was because each of you went through a very rigorous admissions process. It's no easy feat, to say the least. And there are a lot of bright, passionate people that are not sitting in this room and that were not able to be admitted into our programs. And the fact that you all are here is quite an accomplishment. So before we get started, I just want to take a minute for all of us to congratulate you and to welcome you, but also for you all to congratulate each other, because you all are the future of public health, and this is a really exciting time. So congratulations. Before I go any further, I would like to take a quick poll of the group. How many of you have accepted your offer of admissions and know you'll be joining Hopkins in the coming year? Okay, so the rest of you, we're looking at you. How many of you, is this your first time to Baltimore? That's quite a group. And just for fun, I like to do this on my own. Who came the farthest? Do you think if you came the farthest today? Oh, come on, yeah. Texas? Can we beat that? Peru? All right. Some hands went down, so I think we're good. So today is really all about you. It's really your opportunity to get your feet wet. We designed this day for you. We know that you have a lot of questions. And for those of you who didn't raise your hand about having decided yet on your admissions, we really want to give you the opportunity to experience what a day like. And for all of you that are coming, and we're glad of that too, we just want you to again, experience what a day like is here at the Bloomberg School. You're going to be able to get your questions answered, and you're going to hear from Dean Morlock in just a moment. Some of our faculty will be presenting, which I'll talk about in a minute, and lots of our current students as well. We have staff stationed throughout the building that have all of our little badges on, and you'll be able to ask any questions, where a room is, where the restroom, anything that you need. We're here for you today. I did want to point out my counterpart, Taryn Maloney. She's our assistant director of admissions, and she and I will be with you all day today, running around like maniacs, but we're here to help you. So if you have any questions, please find us, and we'll take care of you. We also have current students that I know some have escorted you here, maybe up to breakfast. They'll have Ask Me buttons on. Again, that's to identify them as our current students who have volunteered to specifically help with you today. We want you to learn about the ins and outs of your program or department, and you'll be able to do that primarily at our afternoon lunch sessions, where you'll be meeting directly with your department and faculty and students within each of the specific areas. Hear about the services and resources available to you. We'll be holding an afternoon information fair where there's a whole mess of student services offices that'll be there. You can take a tour of our campus and of our building. Join us for the late afternoon reception, which in my book is a nice way to end the day. And we want you to understand the passion. Our Associate Dean for Student Affairs always says, we live and breathe this stuff. And it really is true. From faculty to staff to students, this is what makes this place so exciting. There's a lot of energy here and a lot going on. And we really think it's an exciting place to be. And we hope that you walk away today getting just a taste of what you can really kind of dive into here as a student. So I mentioned you'll hear from some of our faculty. This is a list of the Bloomberg Seminar Series that come up at 10 o'clock. And we have 4 of faculty that are here from different areas within the department, within the school. And by all means, we wish we had time to give you everybody, but there's just not enough hours in the day. But we do have Dr. Andrea Galen with our Department of Health, Behavior, and Society, who's going to be talking about public health confronting injury and violence. Stan Becker, who's our professor in Department of Population, Family, and Reproductive Health, talking about population and public health in our crowded future. Professor Kellogg Schwab is with our Department of Environmental Health Sciences, and he's kind of our water guy here. Very interesting, and we'll talk about just availability, treatment, and international needs that we're facing. And then Peter Winch from our Department of International Health will be talking about primary health care in low-income countries and kind of looking at the issues surrounding that. So we tried to bring in a bunch of different areas for you. These are people that you can be taking courses from, people that could be your advisors, things like that. So it's definitely a great opportunity to kind of see what a lecture's like here at the Bloomberg School. So like I said, this day is designed just for you, for our admitted students. We have lots for you to do in 8 hours, and our goal is for you to leave not overwhelmed, but with the tools that you need to really go make your admissions decision and to ultimately be excited about joining us and our mission of protecting health, saving lives, millions at a time. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I certainly wish you a wonderful visit and time here, and hopefully we'll see you in the fall. So I would like to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Laura Morlock. She is a professor in the Department of Health Policy and Management and Associate Dean for Education here at the Bloomberg School of Public Health. She is a sociologist with primary research interests in how organizational and managerial factors affect the quality and costs of healthcare. Her research projects have included evaluations of a number of quality improvement and patient safety initiatives in teaching hospitals, rural hospitals, community health centers, and community mental health centers. She recently led a team of Johns Hopkins faculty who collaborated with the U.S. Pharmacopoeia in the analysis of medication error reports and other efforts designed to reduce medication errors and promote patient safety. Professor Morlock has led or collaborated in health reform efforts in the state of Maryland, as well as in Taiwan, Ecuador, Turkey, and Romania. She has also led international education initiatives in Taiwan, India, Trinidad and Tobago, and Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. She is also the director of the Doctor of Public Health Program in Healthcare Management and Leadership. She has taught a number of courses on managing health services organizations and currently co-teaches a course on patient safety and medical errors. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Dr. Morlock to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be the next person to welcome you to Johns Hopkins and to our school. So again, congratulations. You got in, and again, we hope to give you a little more, I hope to give you a little more information to help you figure out whether this is the best place for you to be. First of all, it's a great time to be in public health. Why is that? We get really the privilege to work on some of society's most challenging problems. There is a lot of interest in public health right now. You can hardly pick up a newspaper or listen to the news without encountering substantial problems that we really do need to address in public health. You will join a lot of dedicated people who also are just a pleasure to work with. This is a very interdisciplinary, collaborative area. Takes a lot of disciplines, a lot of people who can bring their own specific knowledge and skills to the table, but know how to work together. There's jobs in this area. I'm just giving a couple of examples from our Department of Labor's occupational outlook. This is domestically, but there's a lot of international opportunities as well in this area. So what are the opportunities here at the school? I'd just like to spend a minute telling you a little bit about the history. So these are our origins, and we were founded 99 years ago. So next year is going to be a fun time to be here. It's just party, you know. We'll be celebrating our 100th birthday, and we're going to have a great time doing it. So it'll be a fun time. But let me get serious for just a second here. So this is William Henry Welsh, our founder. And he, in 1916, this was really a new model for public health. The idea here, and it originated right here, right in this building, was to bring together the scientific basis of public health from the German model, and that's hygiene, and that's where our original name hygiene comes in, from this German tradition, and to wed that with what was really the British concept of public health, which was practice in the field. So the idea from the very beginning was to take science and practice and have them inform each other. So William Henry Welsh came over from the School of Medicine. He was the dean of the School of Medicine. Then he crossed the street, came over. I'm pointing to the School of Medicine over here. He crossed the street, came over here, became our first dean. And from that moment, we've always had a very close relationship with the School of Medicine. So, I'll say a couple more words about that in a minute. From the beginning, we had an international scope and a focus on teaching, research, really service, practice, and mentorship. We have had a lot of trailblazers in the 99 years that we've been around. Chlorinated water originated here in collaboration with engineering at the school, at Homewood, our Homewood campus. Vitamin D was discovered in this building and its role in preventing rickets. Rachel Carson was here, who really inspired the environmental movement. It was here in this building that chronic disease epidemiology really came into being as a discipline. Al Sommer, who is here, really uncovered the power of vitamin A, not only in specific diseases, for example, eye diseases, but also in preventing childhood death in developing countries. Here, HPV was linked to cervical cancer, and we've had a lot of alumni who have really done terrific things. We've had several surgeon generals, several directors of the Pan American Health Organization, health ministers in a number of countries. I've listed here Peru, Thailand, India, New York City, very important, and Taiwan, but there have been others as well, and lots of other great examples. We have a great alumni network. We've had some really great deans, and I'm just going to mention 3 that are here right now, and still very active on the faculty. One is D.A. Henderson, who, when he was with CDC, is credited with leading the effort to eliminate smallpox worldwide. One I've already mentioned is Al Somer. You'll meet him this summer. He's going to give a couple lectures in several of your classes. Mike Clagg is our current dean, is often on the road, but often right here, and is looking forward to meeting you. So we've changed a lot in the last 99 years. These are this is the original building, which we're in right now, and our current building. But one thing that hasn't changed really is our mission. We're really dedicated to the education of a diverse global community of research scholars and public health professionals. These are the two. And to the discovery, the dissemination, and the translation of knowledge to improve and protect health. And you've already heard a whole bunch about our tagline. So who are we today? Well, so you'll hear something about this. We're rated the #1 school of public health, but we're very conscious of the fact that there are lots of great schools of public health. And there are peers, our colleagues, and we learn a lot from each other. But we still secretly think of ourselves as the #1 school of public health. And I'll tell you our secret. It's because of our students. I'm so serious. We have the best students in the world. And there are, at any one time, about 2,100 of them. Each year, we graduate about 860. So it's entirely possible to get out of here. And they go on and they do great things. And we try to stay in touch and really be a network. We, students are from, at any one time, about 80 countries. We have a very large faculty, 626 full-time faculty and another 760 so part-time faculty. We also have a lot of joint appointments, and I mentioned a few minutes ago our close ties to the School of Medicine. We have over 200 School of Medicine faculty who have joint appointments in the school and collaborate on research projects and on teaching. On average, you know these are crazy, but we have one full-time professional faculty for every 2.7 master's students, between 2 and 3 master's students, and for every 2 to 3 doctoral students. So a very good faculty-student ratio. And as I've mentioned, we're a global school. We have students from all over the world, and at any one time have either research or demonstration projects or are providing technical assistance in 90 countries. So this sounds really big, and I'm aware of that, and I'm sure that there are at least a couple of you who are thinking, this place just may be too big for me. How do I find how do I find my place within this very large school with so many faculty and so many students? And so I'm going to focus for the next minute on how you do that. We're big, but we are filled with components. So the first thing is we have 10 academic departments, and you will be either in a department or you'll be oriented toward a department, and so that becomes your academic home. We also have over 70 centers and institutes focused on a huge array of issues. And so it makes a lot of sense to think about what you're interested in, and then you might need a little bit of help in figuring out the center or the institute or the group of faculty and students who are working together on those issues. And that's another point of connection. We offer several different doctoral degrees, the PhD, the SCD, and a program I'm very involved in, the Doctor of Public Health. We also offer a variety of master's degrees, including the MPH, which is both full-time and part-time, our 11-month Master of Public Health program. It's not departmentally based, but you have, it's a school-wide program, but you have the opportunity, as some of you will hear later this morning, to concentrate in one of 10 concentration areas, or to customize in something that's just uniquely good for you and your career goals. We also have a variety of combined programs and a variety of certificates. So not only can you attain a degree, at the same time, if it's good for you, you can also obtain a certificate in one of about 20 different areas. We're also a leader in online education, and I think it's important to emphasize that even for full-time students, because we offer about 120 courses online, and about half of our enrollments in those courses are full-time students. So we don't make any distinction between our on-site and online courses in terms of who teaches them, who takes them as students, and sometimes it's a good way of building some flexibility into your program, because we offer over 500 courses on site and additional courses online. Sometimes that makes for scheduling conflicts, and one of the ways that that students sometimes cope with that is to take a course or two online. We also offer, because we're also proud of this, frankly, we realize our tuition is high, and we also realize it's our obligation to get knowledge out there in however way we can. So we've had for a long time a very big presence in open courseware. Many of our courses, the slides are available on through OpenCourseWare to anyone, student or not. We also now offer a lot of MOOCs, massive, who knows what a MOOC is? A massive online, yeah, a lot of people. You've got it, right. And we've had over 2 million people now enrolled in our MOOC offerings around the world. So I don't want to talk about Bloomberg today without mentioning our extensive commitment to practice and service. There are a lot of practice opportunities and service opportunities. And what we try to do is integrate those. And this is a sign in one of our labs that I love, and it's probably pretty hard to read, so I'm going to read it to you. Theory is when you know everything but nothing works. Practice is when everything works but no one knows why. In our lab, we integrate theory and practice. Nothing works and no one knows why. I think you'll also find a really good sense of humor here. So if that didn't convince you, there's Baltimore and a lot of us who truly love Baltimore. So you're going to hear a lot more about this later today. So I'm not, and my time is just about up. So I'm just going to tell you that there's a lot of very fun things to do here. So I think basically the bottom line is public health is an adventure. And we really hope that you'll decide this is a good place for you, and we'd love to welcome you to our Hopkins community and family. So I hope you enjoy your day, and if there's anything we can do to help, you really need to let us know. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dean Morlock. I have the great pleasure of introducing our next presenter, Tara Kirk-Sell. She's a PhD candidate in our Department of Health Policy and Management and recipient of the prestigious Hopkins Sommer Scholarship. Tara grew up encouraged by her parents to be the person on the field rather than the person from the sidelines. This is a lesson she has certainly carried with her and is truly living. As a competitive swimmer, Tara earned an athletic scholarship to Stanford University and went on to win a silver medal at the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens. Her experience as an elite and professional athlete taught her the importance, balance, and integration of competition and teamwork. After retiring from swimming in 2009, Tara took a job at the Center for Biosecurity for UPMC, where she worked towards protecting people's health from the consequences of epidemics and disasters, and ensuring that communities are resilient in the face of major challenges. This work with D.A. Henderson and other experts in the field of health security eventually led her to her current path. Tara's dissertation will explore public policy responses to emerging epidemics, specifically how the media and policy intertwine in the case of Ebola, and the health consequences of these policy actions. She believes that public health must have a seat at the table when decisions regarding disaster preparedness are made, and she plans to help make that happen. Tara's dedication and passion for the field of public health are truly inspiring, and we're thrilled to have her here to speak with you today. Please join me in welcoming Tara.
Well, hi. I'm glad to talk to you today. Last time I was speaking to the previous group, I came in super late and was totally discombobulated. So hopefully this time we'll go a little bit better. But anyways, I wanted to start out with a story of sort of how I got here, because as you heard from my bio, it seems like it might have been a little bit of a windy road, and you have no idea how much of a windy road it really was. But before I start on, the road from, that picture, I think my senior year, I broke the world record that I broke. Sorry, I have to be closer.
Yeah, we're recording this. So.
Yeah. So anyways, how did I get from the swimming to the dissertation? I think I'll start a little bit before that and talk about sort of first just how I got to the swimming part, and hopefully what you'll take from my talk is sort of two different themes. One is sort of turning your setbacks into opportunities, and the second one is to not be afraid to choose the best option out there in front of you. So anyways, when I was younger, I actually was a gymnast and had no interest in swimming at all. My sister was the great swimmer. When my sister went to swim camp, I went to nerd camp. And so there was, I went to CTY, which is the Hopkins-based program. But anyways, so my sister went to swim camp, and I was going to nerd camp, and I did gymnastics and was totally not into swimming. And I remember, but then when I was 10, I actually fell in the middle of a meet, and I broke my arm, and I had nerve damage in my arm, and I couldn't move my hand. And so I had to start swimming as rehab. And, obviously, that's a big hit to your ego when your little sister is way better at the thing you're doing than you are. But I worked hard and, got a little better. It was fine. But I still, when I was going to college, had no interest in going to swim in college. And I remember at the dinner table, my mom made this joke, like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Tara got a scholarship to swim in college? And everyone laughed because it was a huge joke. But I got a lot better, and all of a sudden I started getting these calls from these coaches, and I got a call from Stanford. And, at the time, Stanford was the best in swimming, and certainly very high up there academically. And so, I had this great opportunity to go to the place that was best in the two things that I wanted to really work on. And so I decided to go, and took that leap and went. And at first it was tough to get used to the new situation. But I had a great coach, and my senior year managed to go to the Olympics and won a silver medal. And so that was really great. So anyways, now that's how it was great. Yeah, silver medal. But anyway, so that's how I got to that picture. So now we can start on the real presentation. But anyway, so I swam for a while, and actually swam professionally and for a couple years. And before the 2008 games, I was actually third at the Olympic trials there, and you don't get to go if you're third. I was third by 100th of a second, and that really sucked. And then I found out one of the girls who beat me tested positive for clenbuterol, which is a banned drug, but I didn't get put on the team, so that sucked even more. And I thought, well, okay, this is really terrible. What am I going to do with my life now? Because I really don't want to swim anymore. And so this is sort of an example of how like networking can really help you out in your life, because my now husband, but he was, at the time was like my boyfriend's roommate's dad said, why don't you call my friend at the Center for Health Security and he'll help you figure out what to do with your life. And so I was like, okay, sure, I'll give him a call. So I gave him a call, and he was like, why don't you come work for us? And I was like, well, that's all the way in Baltimore. I'm in California, but this is a pretty great place. And I'll have to say, this is the place that did, if you're into biosecurity, it's the place that did this dark winter exercise, which is kind of famous for putting bioterrorism on the map. And so since I was in college, I thought it was a pretty cool place. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just try to go here. So I just did it, and we moved all the way to Baltimore and came out here. I was working for a few years and sort of got tired of being introduced at conferences as Ms. or Mrs. and said, you know, I really need a terminal degree to move forward in this. Although for those of you here for the MPH, that's not anything against the MPH, because the other thing is, even if you do need a terminal degree, a lot of the MPH requirements here are the same as the PhD requirements. So that's a big advantage if you have your MPH here. But anyway, so, you know, was like, okay, well, you know, what am I going to do? And before I change this, let's just take a moment and say this little timeline was made for me by the Summer Scholar people, and a lot of stuff, you know, the line you wrote, I got married, I had a baby, you know, all kinds of things happened, and so, you know, we're at the bottom right now, but hopefully more is going to happen. But anyway, so I was like, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get this PhD? And I was thinking, okay, you know, there are a lot of options out there, but I was working with a former dean of this school who I will hope maybe someone can name. Who is this man in the middle? It's a little bit blurry. Does anyone have a guess? She said his name. He eradicated smallpox. Yeah, D.A. Henderson. So I have the great fortune of working with D.A. Henderson, who used to be a dean of the school, and is a great man. And so I went to his office one day and was like, DA, what should I do with myself? And he was like, well, you should go to Hopkins. I was like, okay, DA, like, good idea. And of course, when DA says something, you're just like, well, okay, here I go. I'm going to go off and do what you said because you're DA Henderson. But no, there was more to that than just DA said to go to Hopkins. Hopkins is, of course, the best out there in public health. And you know, you have a lot of great opportunities when you take the chance to go to the best places in the world in the field that you want to work in. So anyways, about Hopkins, other reasons why Hopkins is great. Here I have, my presentation is just all pictures and me talking, so I'll just describe them to you. So, you know, here we have another former dean, Al Somer on the top left, and you know, Bill Ward's in the corner, and this is the Somer Scholars, and we all got together for dinner. And then Dan Morheim, who's a delegate at the in the Maryland State Legislature, we took a class and took a bunch of his students out, and we got to shadow him for a day and see him wheel and deal, which was actually pretty interesting, and a lot more happens than you really would imagine. And then down here on the bottom is Tom Burke. He unfortunately has left us to go to the EPA, but he was my advisor for a long time, and now he's chief science advisor at the EPA. So still get to have some contact with him, but you know, but these are the types of people that you get to work with here at Hopkins, which is, you know, I think it's one thing that really stands out is that the faculty, not only are they great researchers or, you know, great in their field, they are also people who, there are also a lot of people here who get out and use their expertise in the real world, which is something that everyone here wants to actually go do. I mean, I think that, you know, you don't want to just learn for learning's sake. You want to be able to actually go change the world. And these are people who are doing it. And so they're a great example to all of us. And the other thing that's really great that I found here is that the students are really great. So, here's all of us at a wedding, at Tom's Senate hearing, we all went to go watch him and cheer him on. And then, here's my cohort on the bottom. We didn't even know that that sign was there, but that was like after we've completed our comp exams, and so we were celebrating that grueling test was over. So, but anyways, the great thing about students is that all these students have are working on their own research. They're very excellent themselves, and so if you have an issue, you can send them an email and say, hey, I'm not really sure about this t-test, or I'm not really sure about how I'm supposed to do this research piece or this methodology, and they will be able to help you sort of work your way through it. So the other day, like, Megan, the tall girl in the black on the upper left, I was like, Megan, I have these limitations in my dissertation. What do I do? And she's like, oh, well, here, you just explain them this way, and then it'll work out. So it's really great to be able to work with these really great fellow students who are going to go on and do really great things. And so then, what I spoke about before with your network, you have an expanded network of people who are also excelling in their fields. But before I close up, I did also want to say a few words about Baltimore, because a lot of people are like, Baltimore, The Wire, how are you going there? Actually, so I don't look like it, but I am half Chinese, and one of my aunts, when I said I was going to Baltimore, said, Baltimore? There's no Chinatown in Baltimore, which doesn't qualify it as a city, apparently. So anyway, even though Baltimore does not have a Chinatown, it does have a China block. So I mean, I guess that's okay. But anyway, so here's the Inner Harbor. It looks beautiful with the constellation and the volleyball courts over the Inner Harbor. And this is from this top one on the right is from Federal Hill Park, which is really great. Federal Hill not only is where I live, but it's a nice place, has a great park, has also great bars. So also some advantage there. There's Orioles Park. Opening day is today. So if you come here, you should certainly take advantage of that, especially the hot dog covered in mac and cheese and crab. But anyways, that's all I really have today. I mean, I hope that you'll come join me at Hopkins. Whatever windy road has brought you here today, I hope that you're not afraid to choose the best, which is Hopkins. So I don't know. I have. Should I ask? Okay, I have a couple minutes. I can take a couple questions if you wanted to ask how it really is or anything like that. Okay, the question is, how hard is it to be a mom and to also, do the requirements of the program? And I will say I had my baby's 8 months old, and I had mostly completed the majority of my classes, and so, that wasn't I was able to balance that. But I will say that, it's an intense year. First year for the PhD students, for the MPHers, it's an intense year in which, you will have to balance, biostats and babies if you have a baby. And so I won't say that it's a walk in the park. It requires time management for sure. But, life requires time management. And, if you have kids, I think it's manageable. But I also think that, you have to understand that, just like having kids, it's a commitment. So, yeah. Anyone else? So actually, my research topic when I passed my oral exams was not that research topic. And it was actually the public health impacts of a cyber attack. Because, if you lose electricity to a large-scale region for 3 weeks, well, you're going to have some health impacts. And so I was looking into that. And then I realized this is absolutely not boundable. I cannot, this is too much for a dissertation. And so the Ebola stuff came around, and I just found it really interesting. And I had some methodologies in my back pocket that I had learned through my classes. I'm doing a document review, a news media content analysis, and a health impact assessment. And so I said, like, oh, I was sitting in class one day actually, and I was just like, had this like sort of like just like crazy like brainstorm where I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so I like ran upstairs to my advisor and was like, I really want to change my topic to this. And they were like, well, that's a lot of work to change your topic. And I was like, no, but this is the best topic, which, I mean, it's the best topic for me. I'm sure you guys are like, well, what is this? But for me, I was like super excited. And so I think my enthusiasm was part of how they let me change my topic. So that's how I came to that topic. I think I have time for one more. All right, well, I think we're good then. Well, I hope you guys will all join me, but I also hope that you have a great day here today.
I should also clarify for the recording purposes that hot dog is covered with macaroni and cheese and crab. No, it sounded like another word, but crab meat. We're big crab eaters here, which you'll learn. But for those of you out of town, I just thought we'd clarify that. So we're getting ready for our Bloomberg seminar series, and the different faculty presenters are listed on your agenda. As I said, Dr. Galen will be in Sheldon Hall. This is this space. So those of you who want to hear her presentation, you can stick around here. Professor Becker is going to be in Becton Dickinson. That lecture hall is right across the hallway. We have people out there to help you find the spaces too. Kellogg Schwab is going to be in Anna Bacher room, which is W1030. You're going to go out this lecture hall to the right, and then you'll go to a T and make a left. Again, there's signs and there's staff that will help you get around. And then Peter Winch finally is with our Department of International Health, and he'll be upstairs on the second floor in W2030. It's another lecture hall. There's elevators and stairs on this side over where that T is, but again, staff will help you find it. So enjoy the Bloomberg Seminar Series. We'll be back here to start at 11 o'clock altogether.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming to our Bloomberg Seminar Series. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Andrea Galen, who will be presenting this morning's seminar. Dr. Galen is a professor in the Health, Behavior, and Society Department and the director of the Center for Injury Research and Policy. Her research interests are in the development and evaluation of community and clinic-based programs that address health behavior problems affecting women and children, primarily among low-income families in urban areas. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Dr. Galen to the podium.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Great to see you all here, and looking forward to spending a little time with you. Let me start by asking how many of you have already made a decision that you're coming? Yay, great. All right, good. My job is done with you. Now the rest of you. Hopefully we'll have time at the end to answer any questions you have about the program, and I hope some of what I'll be sharing will interest those of you who haven't made a decision in why you should come here. So I'm going to talk about why public health must confront injury and violence. The first thing I'll say is that you all know the name of the school is Johns Hopkins, but you may not know that the S is for safety. So this is why injury is so important to everyone here. Not really, and that's definitely not true. I hope this isn't being recorded. So why should public health get involved in injury and violence prevention? Well, I think there are three answers to that, and I'm going to talk about each of them in some detail as we go through, but feel free to raise your hand if you have questions as we go. So there are three reasons. One is injury is a big problem. The second reason is that we have evidence-based solutions. And the third reason is that there are remaining challenges in injury and violence prevention that are ripe for public health approaches. So we'll talk about each of those in a little detail. So injury is a big problem. There are 5 million injury deaths every year around the world. That's more than malaria, TB, and HIV combined. And it's predicted that by 2020, motor vehicle crashes could be the third leading cause of disease burden in the world. Closer to home, this chart shows you the 10 leading causes of death by age group in the United States. And you don't have to be able to read the words for the purposes of this talk. What I'd like to highlight for you is the colors here. So what we have is the rank order of leading causes of death by age group, and the blue boxes are what we call unintentional injuries. The red boxes are homicides, and the green boxes are suicides. So what this shows is that injury is the leading cause of death from ages 1 to 44 in the United States. And unintentional injuries overall, in the last column, are the 5th leading cause of death. If you include suicide and homicide, which are really part of our field, and our the approaches that we take are similar, injury in total rises to 3rd leading cause. Has anybody seen this chart before? Oh, where have you seen it?
I work in public health in Madison, so I've seen the chart.
Okay, so public health is focusing on injury in Madison. That's great. And how about you all?
Sociology and violence course.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. And in a public health course? Oh, that's fantastic. Good. Well, being from the injury, this is from CDC, and being from the Injury Center, which is what funds our center here, CDC puts this out, and we always show it to every audience. So for those of you who haven't seen it, I hope it gives you something to think about in terms of the impact in our society. But there are other ways to look at injury problems besides deaths. And in this chart, we can see that the years of potential life lost before age 65 by cause. And you can see injury causes more years of potential life lost than any other disease in the United States, which makes sense when you think about the fact that it's the leading cause of death for young people. So years of potential life lost is an important indicator of disease burden. In the United States, from ages 1 to 44, we've already shown that it's a leading cause, but how does it compare? Well, here you can see the purple bars are injury and violence, the green are non-communicable diseases, and the yellow or orange is infectious diseases. So again, another way to look at the disproportionate impact that injury and violence has on people. And yet another way to look at it are these wonderful maps that you can now generate with a push of a finger at the CDC website. You can get these data by county for your state. I didn't know what states everyone was from, so I thought I'd just show you the United States, and you can find yourself on here, right? So these are unintentional injury deaths for the entire population, and the darker colors are the higher rates, 50 to 65 per 100,000, and then down to 24 per 100,000. So you can find yourself there for unintentional injuries. And I think what's interesting is that you can then look at patterns. So these are the unintentional injury death rates. So pay attention to where your state is. And then let's see how it does when we look at homicide. So you see a little bit of a different pattern here where homicide rates are higher. This is the red is the higher rates, 7 to 23 per 100,000, and so forth. So the lighter color is always the lower rates. So again, you can see where homicide is more of a problem than unintentional injuries. And then last but not least is suicide, which again, you see a different pattern here with the darker colors being the higher rates. And overall, the rate of suicide in the country is 11.38. The rate for homicide in the country is 5.85. And for the whole United States, unintentional is 38.91. So there's lots of different kinds of information that you can get to help prioritize your work and what needs to be attended to where you're particularly working. So we've done a quick run through of deaths, but let me tell you that deaths are only what we call the tip of the iceberg in injuries. For every death, there are 10 hospitalizations and 178 emergency room visits, which leads to the totals that you see here, 27 million emergency room visits. Now, what is causing these what is causing these non-fatal injuries is depicted in this slide here, which again is the same kind of matrix with the rank order by age groups, and the red boxes are falls. So any of you clinicians? No? Well, it won't surprise clinicians that falls are what we see a whole lot of across all ages in emergency departments. Motor vehicle occupants and unintentional poisonings are some of the big ones. So those numbers help explain why injuries is so expensive. Treating injuries is the second most costly condition in the United States, second only to heart disease. And every year we generate about $406 billion in lifetime costs. 45% of that is due to disabilities that lead to productivity losses, 35% due to productivity losses due to death, and 20% of that is due to medical care. So again, 20% of 406 billion is a big number. So I hope that I've convinced you that it's a big problem. How many of you, let's see, have ever been to the emergency room for an injury yourself? Okay. And how many of you have known someone, let's say when you were in high school, who was killed in a motor vehicle crash? So this is a preventable tragedy that you're not alone in that. That's been true, even though we've had a lot of successes, that's been true probably since I was in high school, which was way long ago. And so I want to turn to talking about what do we know about how to prevent these tragedies, because you all understand and appreciate how ubiquitous these injuries are. So let's talk a little bit about the effective interventions that we know exist. So we know that car seats, this is my son. This was what I started doing, and my first job in public health was working on promoting car seats. So I have a fondness for showing that. I won't tell you how old he is, but grown, married, you know. So it's been a while. We have fancier technology now, but we still need to get kids in car seats. And we know that car seats reduce the risk of death and injury by 40 to 70% across the ages. So that's proven, that's effective. What else do we know? We know bicycle helmets reduce the risk of a serious head injury by 85%. So we need to get people to wear them. We know, for example, that smoke alarms cut your risk of death in half in the event of a house fire. So these are some of the examples of effective technologies. And in injury and violence prevention, remember I said we talk about them together. Well, some of the reason for that is because our prevention strategies can be clustered. We cluster them under three general approaches: engineering, enforcement, and education. And I'll give you some examples of each of those. So in terms of engineering solutions, one of the things that does anybody have an engineering background? We do have people here who have an engineering background in public health. And it's really interesting that the engineering students over at the undergraduate campus, they work with us in the injury center every year, and we pose to them a problem that we think needs an engineering solution. And this is a picture of one of the things that the engineering students did a number of years ago. A father who had lost his son due to a head injury in a whitewater rafting accident wanted to design a better helmet. And so he and a company and the engineering students in our injury center took that challenge on. And they designed a helmet that provides better protection for water sports. And it's now patented and marketed around the world. So this is an exciting opportunity. And I think I'll say more about the need for us to be multidisciplinary. But I think it's a great example. And lots of the things I showed you, the car seats, the smoke alarms, those are all engineering solutions. And if you look around, if you think about your cars, how much engineering has improved your cars. So if we can protect people sort of from themselves by designing away an injury problem, that's usually a good strategy. And that can work whether we're talking about an intentional injury event or an unintentional injury event. So engineering is one of our big E's of strategies. Another of the 3 E's of strategies is under the category of enforcement. So we know that enforcing laws makes a difference, keeps people safe, whether it's regulations that say how our houses need to be built to be safe, or how we need to have how we need to have sprinklers in office buildings. Those kinds of regulations and codes and laws make a huge difference. This is a picture from Uganda, where one of the injury faculty, Dr. David Bashai on the right there, is meeting with the highway patrol to help them increase their ability to enforce speed limits, because speed is such a contributor to injuries in that context. So enforcement is another of our big strategies. And last but not least, and this is actually what I do a lot of, are educational solutions. This is an example of a partnership that we have with the Baltimore City Fire Department here in Baltimore. And it's a mobile safety center that goes to community events and includes education about home and car safety. But mostly the emphasis is on home and fire safety, and it provides low-cost safety products. So one thing that we've learned in educational strategies is that, and this should be intuitive, it's not enough just to inform people about what they need, but you need to make sure that what they need to take action on your advice actually gets in their hands and they know how to use it. So providing education and low-cost safety products has been a strategy that we've used in our educational programs. I just have a couple of pictures of the interactive educational exhibits inside the van where we can demonstrate the safe placement of products on the stove when you're cooking, why and how kids choke more easily than adults, and then we have a bathroom and stairs and a hot water heater where we demonstrate all of those other kinds of safety issues that you need to have in your home if you have small children. And then the best part of it is the bedroom in the back, where the firefighter talks about what to do if your smoke alarm goes off, and after they do their education and their practice, then the fake smoke comes up and the fire alarm goes off and the kids demonstrate what they've learned in terms of how to do it. So it's a great partnership between public health and a group you might not think about in terms of who you get to work with. It's been really interesting that we both contribute education from the fire perspective and us from the home safety perspective and get the products out there. So those are some quick examples of some of the effective strategies that are available or tools in your toolkit to address injury problems. But thinking about a population perspective, because that's what we do in public health, is we think about population perspectives, we should also be looking for where have we had a lot of impact, and how do we have impact at a population level? What do we need to do in order to do that? So in this slide, I have an example for you of from 1925 to 1995. This is in the United States. Something was happening, was increasing, while at the same time something else was happening, was decreasing. Does anybody want to take a guess at what public health success story this is? It's one of the 10 public health success stories of the last century. You're warm. You're close, yeah? Yep, very close. Oh, also close. So what do airbags and seatbelts prevent? Right, exactly. Motor vehicle related deaths and injuries. Very good. So what this shows is that deaths due to motor vehicle related deaths per 100 million vehicle miles traveled were decreasing dramatically, while at the same time the vehicle miles that we travel were increasing also dramatically. So what this shows, I mean, every public health problem would love to have an experience where exposure goes up and deaths and injuries go down, right? So this was among the list, as I said, of the greatest public health accomplishments of the last century. So my question to you is, how did it happen? We've heard two things already, seatbelts and airbags. So what else is behind this success story? Speed limits, great. Better roads, yep. Safer cars. Anything else? Emergency medical services, that's a good one. Yeah, that's important. That's very important. And it doesn't typically make the list of the most important accomplishments, but I think a lot about it, especially with regard to developing countries as they become more and more motorized. So yes, exactly, after the crash. Yeah. Oh, okay. And right. So we needed the enforcement to get people to buckle their seatbelts, right? And we improved the cars by putting airbags in them. Great. I think you got, oh, let's see. I think there's probably one more important one.
Public service announcements and educating people on using these things.
Okay, so that would be a strategy to get people to be safer, to have a safer behaviors, right? What is one of the behaviors that we've seen a lot of improvement in terms of driving? DUI, thank you. Yep, right, exactly. So I think we got them all. Better highways and roadway designs, better cars, and then seatbelt use. Well, we didn't say it, but car seat use sort of goes with auto restraint use, and then drinking and driving. So you gave good examples and even started to touch on actually how those things happen. And that's really important in terms of skills that you get as a public health professional, is to say, okay, I get it, that's what happened. But the question is, how do we make that happen? How do we use engineering, enforcement, and education strategies? And a lot of the success actually comes through policy. And I think you all sort of hit on that when you talk about mandatory seatbelt laws, putting airbags in cars. So policy is a really important component of what you do, and policy sort of encircles all of these other strategies. So when we think about what works, we should be also looking for evidence of policies that are effective. And we're fortunate in that way that we also have had a partnership with Trust for America's Health, which is an advocacy organization in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you've heard of it, but they're an advocacy group that puts out lots of wonderful issue briefs and synthesizes the evidence. So folks from the Injury Center have worked with them to come up with injury prevention report cards. And through these kinds of documents, you can get a handle on what policies do we know work, how many states have those policies, and you can use that as an advocacy tool to actually make change. Another really important skill for the public health professional is advocacy. So what this shows, and this report is available online, so we don't really have to go into detail here. I just wanted to make you aware that the information was available. So if we look just for on the first line, for example, the indicator with regard to motor vehicle injuries, does your state have a primary seatbelt law, meaning the police can stop you simply for not buckling up? Well, 32 states and DC have that, so there's room for improvement there. So if you're out in the field working, this kind of information can help guide you in terms of where to put your priorities. So I want to turn now to the challenges that really need public health approaches. So I think we've covered the importance of it. We've shown you some of the there are many more examples of what we know works to prevent injuries, but we haven't solved the problem, right? You all are very young, and you still, so many of you have had personal experiences with friends or yourself who have had injuries, so you can appreciate that our job isn't done and that we need more people who are interested in tackling these problems. So when we think about what are the big challenges in injury and violence prevention, these are just some of the ones that are getting attention right these days. One is disparities in access to prevention. So injuries among Native American populations are significantly higher. We have increasing non-English speaking immigrant populations in many parts of the country where the access to the information and the tools is not equitable. And we also have low-income families who don't have access to products and information. So the ones in red are ones I'm going to tell you a little bit more about, but I wanted to give you sort of the big picture of what's on the horizon for injury and violence prevention. So in terms of new and emerging hazards, they seem to crop up every day. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we weren't texting. We didn't have entertainment in our cars. Those things have been hugely influential in increasing distracted driving and problems and injuries and deaths associated with that. Traumatic brain injury, you can't read the paper without hearing about more new information about who's suffering from traumatic brain injuries, whether it's sports figures or our veterans. And we're also learning more and more about the negative impact of small repeated head injuries. And so what are the prevention strategies for that? Interpersonal violence, it's been a chronic problem, but we have never before paid as much attention as we are now to the issue of trafficking and sexual assault, really important problems. Increasing physical activity. Everybody is interested in this, and rightly so. We need to be more physically active, and we need to lower our rates of obesity. But if we don't do that with the idea of injury prevention and safety in mind, then we're going to see more pedestrian injuries and more violence injuries. So this is another area for partnership. So if those of you who might be interested in chronic disease prevention, keep these things in mind. There's a whole group of people who are passionate about injury and violence prevention who can be great partners as you go about trying to increase physical activity. And then last, and I'll talk more about it, prescription drug overdose, another big problem that has been in the news and is increasing as we speak. So why are these public health challenges? Well, what is it that public health does so well? Well, first of all, we focus on populations. We engage multidisciplinary and community experts. We don't sit in our office and think that we have all the answers. We engage with our community, and we engage with other disciplines who can help solve a problem. And we take a very systematic approach to problem solving. And that approach includes surveillance and risk factor identification, intervention development, implementation and evaluation, and then disseminating the results of what we know works. So I'm going to go through the two examples of low-income home safety issues and then prescription drug overdose, and hopefully they'll give you a sense of where in this public health perspective this work rests or sits. So disparities in home injuries to children. We know that low-income urban families are at risk for fire and burn injuries, falls, poisonings at greater rates than non-low-income families, and that they have limited access to information and resources. So one of the projects that we did, and I should say when I go through these things, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, again, we don't do that. We do that with partners, but we do that heavily with students. So there's lots of opportunities for students to get engaged in all of these kinds of projects. In fact, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without having students on the team. So in this project, the Safe Home Project, we worked with a multidisciplinary group of pediatricians, health educators, and community health workers. We looked at the literature and what the pediatricians were recommending to find proven effective safety products that families needed to use to protect their kids. Smoke alarms we've talked about, cabinet locks, stair gates. These are things that protect the little ones. And what the project was about was to test how do we best increase the use of these among low-income urban women who come into care for well child care. And what we did was, and I don't have time to go through how we built the program, but I'll just tell you what we did and what we found. And if you're interested, I can tell you more about needs assessment later. But one of the things that we did was we worked with the pediatricians to teach them to do a better job of counseling the families in the well child visit. So we taught them to solicit information so they knew what the mom already knew, advise specifically on what the mom needed, focus on the mom's barriers, or the dad's, but it was mostly moms, focus on problem solving the barriers that the family had, and then encourage compliance. So something like, well, as your pediatrician, I'm really worried about house fires in Baltimore because kids in Baltimore are at increased risk. Have you thought about what you would do if there was a fire in your home, to start the conversation? The mom might say, no, I haven't thought about it, or, well, I have a smoke alarm. So then the pediatrician can say, well, how do you know your smoke alarm is working? Or would you like to get a smoke alarm? Focus on how to help her make sure she's protected, and then encourage compliance by saying, okay, this is great. I'll check back with you when you bring Johnny in for the next visit to make sure that your smoke alarms have been installed or are working. So we taught the pediatric residents to do that with their parents. Then we built a children's safety center next to the clinic where the mom could go, sort of like a pharmacy for safety, and get free personalized education and low-cost safety products and try before you buy kind of thinking. And that was the second program component. And then the third, oh, that's a picture of the original safety center and some of our families. And then the third program component was community health workers who did a home visit with the moms to identify the hazards, to personalize the education, and to encourage the mom to go to the safety center. So those were our three program components. So you can see how we sort of built out the education. It wasn't just talking to the mom, but actually building out around that what they would need to take action. And we did an evaluation where we enrolled moms when the baby was 0 to 6 months old. We listened to the audio tapes of the counseling with the physicians. We tracked visits to the safety center, and we tracked visits with the community health workers. Then we went into the moms' homes and did follow-up observations when the babies were 12 to 18 months old, and we measured a number of their safety practices that we had counseled on. So what we found in the first pass through, the first cohort, what we did was we randomized physicians to improved counseling or the standard counseling. And what we found in that trial was that we could increase the amount and quality of the doctor's counseling, but we didn't see any change in the parents' safety practices when we looked in the home. The patients were a lot more satisfied with their physician's counseling, but they didn't change their safety behaviors in the home, which with everything else I've just said before should not surprise you. But the good news is the physician counseling improved. So in the second cohort where we randomized the two different things, one group got the improved physician counseling and access to the safety center, and the second group got the those two things, the improved physician counseling and the safety center access, but they also got the community health worker home visit. So what we found there was that the community health worker visit didn't give us any more benefit, that what really made the difference was the moms going to the safety center and getting the counseling from the physician. And we found that they were significantly more likely to have more safety practices observed in their home when those two things were combined. So what happened as a result of that? Remember I said we don't just stop here we do research, we do intervention research like this, but we don't just stop with the results and publish them in a journal. That's what's exciting about this place and public health. We actually try to disseminate these results and advocate for what we know works. So in this particular case, the Safety Center has been a model for other children's hospitals. They have safety stores in a couple of dozen children's hospitals. We've done international visits and had international visitors come here. In fact, Abu Dhabi's biggest maternity hospital didn't have any program, and they now have like a hugely successful car seat program, which is fantastic. We built the Mobile Safety Center, which I told you about earlier. And we've done replication guides. We're working on a multi-site evaluation now of other similar programs. So I think it's a nice example of a small idea that we think has the potential to make a huge impact on the safety of children, especially low-income children. So let's switch to prescription drug overdose. So in that case, that example has gone all the way through from understanding the risk factors for low-income urban kids and home injuries all the way through dissemination. We're not there on prescription drug overdose. We know a good bit about from surveillance data. So these data are from the CDC, who reports that in 1 year, enough prescription painkillers have been prescribed to the U.S. to medicate every adult around the clock for an entire month. Staggering. The quantity sold to pharmacies, hospitals, and doctors' offices is 4 times higher now than it was in 1999. 1 in 20 people over the age of 12 report using prescription painkillers for non-medical purposes. And more people are dying from drug overdose than from motor vehicle crashes. And that's huge. And that really has been a major wake-up call for people. Now, why is that an injury problem, right? You're probably thinking, why is that an injury problem? Isn't that substance abuse? But if you look at it, again, it's a perfect example of the need for multidisciplinary approaches. One thing that we, years and years ago, probably before most of you were born, children's baby aspirins were, children were dying. They were being poisoned on baby aspirin. So injury prevention people, pediatricians in injury prevention, were instrumental in getting child-resistant and limited dosage packaging. So by changing the packaging, we could see a decline in these poisonings in little children. So poisoning has been something that injury prevention has been interested in for a long time. And just like the physical activity and injury partnership, now we're learning how to partner with our substance abuse colleagues who really have been working on substance abuse issues for decades. And they know a lot about the addiction and treatment end of things. So again, this is a huge problem that needs lots of different expertise. And just a little bit more on the data about the problem. This shows the rate of prescription painkiller sales. This is sales in the green, deaths in the purple, and substance abuse treatment admissions in the orange. And so you can see from the early 2000s to today how this has dramatically increased. Again, these data are from CDC. I think this is called an infographic, which I think sometimes they're Rorschach tests, I'm not sure. But for every one death, there are 10 treatment admissions, 32 emergency department visits, 130 people who are dependent, and 825 non-medical users. Again, another way to just look at the magnitude of the problem. So with surveillance, we look at risk factors. So middle-aged adults have the highest death rates, but the use of opioids among college students has increased by more than 300%. So again, an emerging risk group. Whites, Native Americans, rurals, people who live in rural areas, these are high-risk groups. Excuse me. We know that males have more risk than females, although it's interesting to note that there's been a 400% increase in deaths among women compared to 265% in men. I mean, bad news for both, but women are also an emerging risk group. So this is prescription painkiller overdose deaths among women. Again, this is, you see the opioids here. This is, the orange is antidepressants, benzodiazepines, cocaine, and heroin, but the opioids are skyrocketing. So if you look at who's being seen in the emergency room among women for prescription painkiller abuse or misuse, the age group most at risk among women, you can see here 25 to all the way to 54. Again, so an emerging risk group that we know a fair bit about. So what are we doing about it here? We're one of many people in the United States who are addressing this. And we were fortunate enough to partner with the Clinton Foundation. And this was a partnership here at the school between the Injury Center, and we have a Center for Drug Safety and Effectiveness. So again, another example where we're partnering with the drug safety people, the FDA people, and the injury people, and the Clinton Foundation Health Matters. And what they've been working on is getting naloxone to be distributed when these drugs are distributed, because it's a life-saving treatment if someone overdoses, but it's very complicated in many places to actually get naloxone if you're John Q. Public. So the Clinton Foundation is working on that with a company called Calio. The college campuses, they have a big initiative through the JED Foundation. I don't know if any of you had that on your college campuses. No? Okay. And then what we did here with them was an evidence synthesis. We were really lucky to have President Clinton come here and kick off a town hall where we had expert panels with 30 participants from all different stakeholder groups, from the FDA, the White House Office on Drug Control, physicians, pain management specialists, substance abuse treatment people, etc. And what we've done, I'll show you a little bit more about what we're putting out as a result of that evidence synthesis meeting. But first I will comment on my on my picture with Bill. Totally shameless self-promotion, but I was going to take it out, but then I thought, no, what if I could promise that you'll meet Bill Clinton here? So maybe, I can't promise, but we have invited him back. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, it was kind of a highlight. It was kind of a highlight. So what came out of that was a consensus statement from all of those people that gathered. So we had the town hall, but then there was a smaller work group of experts that met for a day and a half. And we came out with a consensus statement and work groups. And what this is our commitment as a group to say that what has to happen is that action has to be taken that's informed by evidence, that we need to intervene comprehensively, that it's not just a problem of addiction, it's not just a problem of the product, but all along that supply chain, in clinics, in communities, and in treatment settings, everyone needs to be sort of speaking the same language and having a comprehensive strategic approach. We have to promote the appropriate and safe use of these drugs. There's a conflict about not denying effective drugs from people who are chronic pain patients. And so what we're going to put out are a series of recommendations for action, as well as key communication messages for the public, but also for policymakers, because a lot of the change that has to happen is through the policy process. So we're hoping by the fall of this year, we're going to have recommendations and key messages on 7 priority areas. One is on engineering safer products and packaging, and this is another example. We're working with the engineering students at Homewood, and they're creating a fingerprint locked device for opioids, so that the pharmacist would give you your prescription of opioids, but it would be programmed so that only your thumbprint would open the device, and you would only be able to get a pill when it was time. it would be timed. So these are some really talented engineering students. I can't wait to see the final product, which they're going to unveil in May. And then hopefully in the next year, we'll actually be testing it and maybe getting it out in the marketplace. So engineering is one of the priorities. Looking at prescribing guidelines and professional practices. I don't know if any of you have personally been offered any. While we've been working on this, we had two people working on it. One went into the emergency room with a bad burn from the kitchen, and the other one I think went in with an ankle issue, and they both were prescribed lots of these drugs to take home with them. So looking at what are the prescribing guidelines and how are they being implemented? What's going on with prescription drug monitoring programs? These are things where there's a state registry of prescriptions of these drugs that physicians can check before they write you a prescription, or should check before they write you a prescription. But are these policies effective? There's not enough work done on that. We want to increase access to naloxone. We want to do community-based prevention, looking at what we can do at the community. There's almost nothing being done at the community level now, so there's a huge need there. Looking at the role of pharmacies, and then certainly looking at addiction treatment issues. So it's broad, and we're excited about the potential of unveiling this and actually working with folks going forward, hopefully. So just to wrap up, and hopefully have saved a little bit of time for questions, is my take-home messages, besides come to Hopkins, it's great, are that injury is really an important and potentially solvable public health problem. That public health approaches, strategies, and methods are really at the core of successful injury prevention, and that we need multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary work that generates the evidence to inform policies and programs going forward. And lastly, in 1999, the Institute of Medicine put out the most recent report we have from the national level on how do we reduce injuries as a country. And what they said was one of the most impressive achievements over the past 2 decades has been a political one. Through communication, advocacy, and constituency building, a national community of interest in promoting safety and preventing injury has emerged. So if anything I've said today has stimulated you to join our community of interest in injury and violence prevention, we would most openly and heartily welcome you. So I hope that you have some questions and we can have some discussion for, I think, 4 minutes. Any questions? Yes.
So going back to, first, thank you so much for the presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking. I love to talk about this.
Going back to the Safe Home Initiative, I'm curious, did you, throughout the process, discover any structural level of interventions, per se, policies that address the built environments that exacerbated or created unsafe conditions in the first place?
Well, that's a really great question. And actually, it's interesting how that's a pretty old study now, but I can tell you kind of the path that we took from that, which I think gets at your question, which is our folks would go into the homes and would come back and report, there's no way they can use cabinet latches and locks because they don't have cabinets, or you can't put a stair gate on these stairs because they're full of holes and they're in terrible disrepair. So we were struck very quickly and very strongly with the role of the built environment in terms of the home environment. And we also looked at fire data, who was having fires. And what we learned in that analysis was that if your home is near a vacant property, the closer you are to a vacant property, the greater your risk of dying in a house fire. And Baltimore has a number of vacant properties. So those were extra steps, extra information that was fed into us. And what we've been doing with that is developing other projects. And one of our most recently completed projects has been to work with HUD on so HUD certifies houses as safe and habitable for families before you can get a voucher to move into a HUD home. but their assessment tool doesn't take into account some obvious hazards that are going to injure kids, even though a lot of the people who take the voucher program have little kids. So we got funded to do a study to look at their tool, and we've created an addition to their tool that will speak specifically to injury hazards for kids. And we're discussing with them now how to roll that out, how to get that adopted. There are lots of other home visiting programs now that give passing lip service, which is fine, I mean good, that they give lip service to injury and injury prevention, but we think that there's a huge opportunity for this kind of tool for people who are in homes to say, wait a minute, we got to get somebody to fix these stairs, or we've got to put handrails on these stairs, those kinds of things. So we're working really hard to do what we can, to look for those things and then find ways to address them. And there are a lot of other faculty here who do a lot more of that kind of work. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes, I do, very much so. We had a very weak community health worker intervention. So we could only go in once, and we could not make any changes in the home. This, as I said, was a long time ago. Now we would get a waiver, and we would make the changes in the home, or we would have repeat visits with the community health workers. What we're doing along those lines as a next step is we just are completing a project with the Nurse-Family Partnership. Nurse-Family Partnerships visit low-income moms during the prenatal period and at least like weekly or every 2 weeks for the first 2 years of the baby's life. And they have a little bit of an injury prevention curriculum, but it's not as robust as if we were doing home visits. So we said, hey, here we are. And they wanted to partner with, they have partnered with us as the academic partner, but what we're doing is we're setting up in local nurse-family partnership communities, we're being the matchmaker, and we're getting them to work with their fire departments. So the nurse goes in and says, hey, can the fire department come and put in free smoke alarms for you? And they say yes, most of them. And the fire department comes in and does a whole home safety inspection and installs smoke alarms. And so we're trying to build that out, because why should we try to hire our own community health workers when there are all these other home visiting programs out there? So that's the direction we took that work. So that was my long answer, sorry. And we have some, I think we have to stop. One more?
I'm happy to hang out and talk a little bit too. We could do that. The other students are going to start coming in.
Oh, okay.
You can do one more.
One more question? Okay.
I didn't know if there's any other research you've done in injury prevention that you haven't mentioned that you're particularly proud of.
Okay, now she said I could keep talking till somebody came in. You better hope there are more people coming in. No, I'll just give you one example of what the other thing that personally I really like to do. But I should tell you more about the center, actually. So just quickly, my other area of real interest and passion, along with many other people here at the school, is in domestic violence. So there are people that we're working with on developing theoretically tailored interventions for domestic violence survivors that we're testing both in terms of sitting down counseling strategies as well as on mobile apps. So mobile apps for survivors, and then on college campuses for survivors as well as for friends who are worried because they think someone's in an unsafe relationship. So that's a whole nother area that lots of people here are working on that I'm also very personally interested in. And the relationship between HIV/AIDS risk in women and intimate partner violence is very important. There are people working on that. That's another area that I've done work in the past. But the Injury Center we have 25 faculty who are as passionate about their part of injury prevention as I am about mine. We have lawyers, we have health policy researchers, we have epidemiologists, of course, more health communications people. And Hopkins is really rich with resources in this area, because not only do we have our injury center, which is sort of multifaceted, we do everything from the kind of stuff I described here to our department chair has done enormous work on acute care. You mentioned EMS. I mean, she's done phenomenal work on demonstrating the impact of trauma centers, and then all kinds of outcomes, of treatment outcomes for trauma. But what I was going to also say is we have a youth violence prevention center, we have a gun policy center, we have an international injury research group, and then we have our center. So if any of those kinds of topics are of interest to you, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction for more information. Okay? All right, thank you.
My name is Dina Wagner.
My name is Fumi Olaolorun.
My name is Adam Hoffer.
I didn't know much about the city, and it was really fun to move here and learn about the different neighborhoods and explore what it has to offer.
I really do think that this is a great city where people are walking around, lots of people have their dogs, and it's really a comfortable, relaxed environment.
I think that the media that Baltimore gets is quite unfair because it is a great place to be.
So one of the great things about Baltimore is that they do make it bike accessible, and there's lots of places downtown that you can bike through, major roads and everything to get where you need to go, and a lot of students do bike to class.
I love the fact that there are many places that families can go and spend time together.
I think it really is a city of neighborhoods, and being able to do different activities on the weekends and try out different restaurants and stuff like that has been fun.
So one of the great things about Baltimore, it has a really thriving live music scene, and there's lots of local venues you can go see.
When I first started looking for apartments, it was all online, and I thought they were surely a scam. For what I was paying for a tiny, tiny one-bedroom in Boston, I could get a two-bedroom apartment here in Baltimore and pay less at that.
It's quite affordable. I have family living in New York, DC, and it's really significantly more expensive, and that makes it possible to use your money towards other activities that you might enjoy doing while you're in Baltimore.
It's a comfortable feeling I have to be able to focus on my studies and not worry what's happening to my son, because I know he's in good hands in school. I think everybody brings different things from their backgrounds, and it's really very useful to be able to learn from other students, because I think at Hopkins the students are as great a resource as the faculty themselves.
Who can beat Hopkins? You know, might as well go for number one, right?
So welcome back, everybody. We're going to kind of shift gears, as you can see on your agenda. I hope you enjoyed your Bloomberg seminar series. We're going to be talking to Mindy Levin, who's actually the director and founder of SOURCE, which stands for our Student Outreach Resource Center. She's been with the university for a very long time and also is a homegrown Baltimorean. Is going to talk to you about SOURCE and also talk to you about Baltimore and facilitate our Q&A. So Mindy, I already asked the group earlier who this is their first time in Baltimore. We have a good chunk. So if you can just raise your hand again so she can get a sense. We've got a lot of first timers. So on the opening day for the O's. Oops, sorry. I didn't even do that.
There you go. Thank you, Leslie. All right, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good, that's what I like to hear. Okay, so let me start out by talking a little bit first about SOURCE. SOURCE is acronyms. There's a lot of acronyms around the hop. Student Outreach Resource Center. We're the Community Service and Service Learning Center. We're not only for the School of Public Health, but we also serve the schools of medicine and nursing, which are right next door to us. So those are our 3 health professional schools that we have here at Hopkins. I also have our contact information. If you're a person that's really interested in community engagement, community-based participatory research, service learning, we're your place to be. So what do we do with SOURCE? Well, one of the things that we try to do is we are really working to get all of our public health students, as well as our faculty and staff, to collaborate with local nonprofits and public health organizations right here in Baltimore City. So our sole focus is on the neighborhoods around here in Baltimore City. Now, when we talk about working with our community-based organizations, there's a lot of reasons why we recommend you taking the time to do that. For one, you're going to be learning a lot of theory in the classroom, and we're going to give you an opportunity to apply those theories in a real-world setting with community partners here in the city. I can also tell you that a lot of the nonprofits that are here in Baltimore that we partner with actually wait for our new students. They get really excited when it's summertime and new people are coming to come and work with their organizations. We've built a rich history and tradition of that. This is a wonderful way to also have professional development, put items on your resume or your CV to develop your career. And then as many of you, this is your first time in Baltimore, whether you're here for a one-year program or many years with a doctoral degree, this is going to be your new community for a period of time, and we want you to get out and explore and learn about your neighbors and folks around here. Now, Baltimore, because many of you are new to us, it's not unlike other cities around the country and even around the world. Some of the health challenges that we're focusing on here in Baltimore, high rates of diabetes, hypertension, obesity, substance abuse is certainly an issue. At the last 2010 U.S. Census, we knew that in America, 15% of the population was living below the federal poverty line. Well, here in East Baltimore, the surrounding blocks around our campus, that statistic is even more alarming, that we have 29% of our residents that are living below the federal poverty line. So that means there's a lot of issues and needs in our communities. But at the same time, I also have to tell you that we have a tremendous amount of assets in our communities as well. And these are these nonprofit organizations that we work with that are doing tremendous things. They're extremely resilient organizations. You'll find people to be extremely friendly. And SOARS partners with about 100 different nonprofits in Baltimore City. What I have for you here is just a list of kind of the categories of organizations that you can get involved with. So whether there's a particular health topic that's of interest to you, or if there's a specific population that you're interested in, we likely have a community partner that's doing that type of work. You can check out our website. It's just source.jhu.edu and look at our directory of nonprofits and just learn a little about what we have going on. Now, the involvement opportunities that we have from SOURCE are really diverse. We do everything from one-time service days to really embedded into your academics, where we have some service learning courses, we're doing CBPR, we have one-time, short-term, ongoing. So no matter what amount of time that you have available, or if you want to break from academics or you want this to be a part of academics, we have a whole plethora of opportunities that we can speak with you about. Now, I also share that SOURCE is both the community service and service learning center. I think most people understand the concept of community service and doing volunteerism. We do that, but we also focus a lot of our time and attention on service learning in this particular pedagogy. And service learning, what we need to tell you is that it's a very structured learning experience. And we're combining your community service and we're preparing you to do that work, but we're also doing reflection. And students that are engaging in these service learning experiences, you're providing your community service activities in response to community identified needs. So it's our partners that are telling us what they need from us. And the other thing is that you're going to learn more about the context in which you're providing the service, and you're going to make a wonderful connection between your academics and the real world. And we're trying to develop global citizens. So service learning here at the School of Public Health, we have a number of different academic courses where you're earning credit for having a public health practice experience in the real world. These are just some of the different courses that we have available. There's others. I didn't want to put too many up on the slide. But if you are interested in working with youth, the Children in Crisis course does exactly that. We have a data analysis course where we're working with nonprofits. They have a whole bunch of data that we're working with them to analyze the data and prepare different reports, use that for advocacy and policy work. We do qualitative research course where you're literally working with a nonprofit and you're helping to do focus groups and key informant interviews and other things of that nature as a part of this course. So again, you are learning the theory, and then you're going to learn even more because you're applying it and having this real world experience. One of the other really cool programs that we've been running for 10 years with SOURCE is called The Connection. And The Connection is our community consulting program. And what we do is we put together small teams of students, about 3 to 5 students per team, to work on short-term projects. And I say short-term, it's about 6 to 8 weeks long. And this is a tri-school opportunity. So those groups of students are medicine, nursing, public health. And these are the types of things that we're doing. The community organizations themselves are submitting their project needs to us. And then we've helped them with all kinds of grant writing or evaluation, assessments, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really cool program to get involved with. We have a whole bunch of other source opportunities. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them for you all. We have an HIV counseling and testing program where each year we end up training about 30 people to become certified in the state of Maryland to be an HIV counselor. And we have, again, students from all 3 schools, medicine, nursing, and public health. And then you dedicate yourself to being a counselor at one of our participating community clinics, and you have to work 2 shifts per month. Really wonderful program. We also have a program called our Source Service Scholars, where we recruit and train a cohort of students from across the 3 schools to work with community organizations on projects that they've requested. And you're basically trained to be a student leader and recruit other volunteers from the 3 schools. You do a lot of reflection and working with those volunteers that you've recruited. Another really cool opportunity that I'll tell you about, because this is something to know about around our campus, is that we've also been training cohorts of both faculty members and community leaders through our Source Service Learning Faculty and Community Fellows program. And we're training them in service learning pedagogy. And what's happening is those faculty members are creating service learning courses. So giving you more opportunities to have a public health practice experience in the curriculum for academic credit. And then we also have a small series of online modules that we've developed. And what they do is basically prepare our students before you go out and work in the community. So a lot of our service learning courses will actually require students to take any number of the online modules as part of the preparation before you go out and serve. We also have a number of different events and programs that we offer throughout the year. In September of each year, we end up having our annual community involvement fair. It's when all of our community partners are invited to campus to come and recruit you all. We have all kinds of prizes and giveaways and that kind of fun stuff. In October, usually very early October, we have Baltimore Week, and we have lots of different speakers coming in. Of course, we have service, but we're trying to get so many people that are new to Baltimore to understand what a wonderful city this is. We do tours of Baltimore. We take you around on buses and show you where all the different nonprofits are. We talk about the health issues. We talk about the history, both the love and the hate that's been going on. We're gearing up right now for National Volunteer Week, where we are thanking all the people that have been involved in service. We give out our service awards, so it's a really fun week for us. And then we're also collaborating with student groups, particularly groups that want to do service or want to have speakers from Baltimore. So my last pitch to you all about Source is that we really give you guys the opportunity to go beyond the classroom. I can tell you that students that have been involved have really developed wonderful relationships with their peers that are involved in the community, with those faculty and staff members that are also mentoring and encouraging them to do that work, and of course with the community organizations. A lot of people have had job opportunities that came out of that as well. So if you're really interested in public health practice and anything that I've said, definitely you want to find us at Source. And we're also more than happy to sit down with you. We do one-on-one appointments to talk about your background, your interests, your future goals, what skills you want to develop, and we will be your matchmakers. So if you want to stay connected with Source, there's a couple things that you can do. Feel free to grab your phones out right now if you'd like to. I won't be offended. Actually, I'd like that. If you want to subscribe to what we call our Source Weekly Service Scoop, just shoot us an email at source@jhu.edu and type subscribe, and you will get on our listserv. And we only send out our newsletter basically every Tuesday, once a week, and we list the latest involvement opportunities, so it's a wonderful resource. And then, of course, we're all over social media, so if you're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, like us, follow us, tweet us back, all that kind of good stuff. All right, I'm switching gears now. I want to start to give you a little bit of information about Baltimore. I'm going to cover a couple things rather quickly, a little bit of dialect, show you some famous Baltimoreans, talk about transportation, entertainment, restaurants, and living in Baltimore. And then immediately after my talk, I will have some of our current students that will come on up, and we'll do a whole session about living in Baltimore, and most of the time will be focused on the questions that you all have, okay? All right, so first, some of the words that we say, our native Baltimoreans might be a little bit different. We might tell you, welcome to Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, we tend to say Balmer, Maryland. And then we might, as it's like springtime and the rain will go away, we all start talking about going down the ocean, which means we're going down to the ocean, Ocean City, Maryland, which is a popular vacation destination. We tend to have different, like we throw in random R's or say words differently. So we might say, I'm going to iron my clothes or wash my clothes. And then we also, today in particular, we might be talking about them O's or them Oreos, which is the Baltimore Orioles, our baseball team. All right, famous Baltimoreans. I'm just showing this up here. Every time I have people that say, you forgot to put this person, this person. Okay, it's not an all-inclusive list. It's just a little flavor of filmmakers, authors, politicians, athletes, yada, yada, yada. So lots of wonderful people have come out of Baltimore. So it's a wonderful place to be, and great things come from homegrown folks and also folks that have been grown here at the Hop. So getting around Baltimore. So we don't have like the most amazing public transportation like a New York or kind of something like that, but we do have great options for you. One thing to know is that Hopkins is the state's largest employer. That means that every single form of public transportation comes right here to the Hop, which is fabulous because you can participate in any of those public transportation. But the other thing that the Hop provides is a variety of free shuttles that go around town. So a lot of our students and faculty and staff tend to live along our own Hopkins shuttle route, and they like walk a block or a couple of blocks and use the Hopkins shuttle. So there's a shuttle that goes between our campus here and the undergraduate Homewood campus. We've got lots of campuses around here. We have a campus near the Eastern High School, so shuttle goes there. We have a shuttle that goes to Mount Washington and to Green Springs Station. And then the other cool thing about Baltimore is that we have an organization called the Baltimore College Town Network, and the Baltimore College Town Network is basically, we have about like 14 different colleges and universities in Baltimore and the surrounding greater Baltimore area, and we have a free bus that connects between the different universities, which is pretty cool. Then when I start talking about public transportation options, we have the Metro, we have the light rail. Certainly you can use the Amtrak trains and MARC trains. We have our own city bus line and the Dash shuttle. We have the Charm City Circulator, which is a free bus that goes, it has about 4 different routes around town that's free and green, and of course comes here. We are not too far from BWI. Also, people that are using Baltimore Penn Station, Hopkins has a shuttle that picks up from Baltimore Penn Station, so we have people that commute in from DC and other places. We have the water taxi that takes you around Baltimore. We have Zip cars, we have Uber, we have Lyft. Lots of ways to get around town. Okay, so for entertainment, there's so much to do in Baltimore. There's tons of different galleries and museums that you can go out and explore. I've listed some of them here. The top picture is of the American Visionary Museum, and the very bottom picture that you see here is the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture. So lots of different options. Then if you are interested in going to the theater, going to see concerts, going to see movies, again, not an exhaustive list, but I'm giving you some options that are available for you to go out and explore. Restaurants. So you can pretty much eat just about anything in Baltimore. You can have little coffee shops to very expensive 5-star restaurants. Baltimore also has a series of municipal food markets. We have one about 2 blocks down the street, which is a Northeast Market. There's a couple other around town as well, where you go in and it's just stalls and stalls of different food. Healthy food to chicken boxes to you can buy socks in there, you can buy balloons, you can buy the most random assortment of stuff in the Northeast Market and any of the other markets. We have the food truck thing is like big and booming around here right now. I would say a lot of our students go to the coffee houses. We also have lots of different local breweries here in Baltimore, Union Craft Brewery and some others that I would say check it out if that's your thing. Baltimore is a major sports town. If you were coming from Baltimore from other bigger cities, and you know some people are into sports, well, when you're in Baltimore and it's sports time and you go to the food store, everyone and their mother is in a jersey, okay? We live, breathe, sleep our Orioles and our Ravens. So if you're into sports, there's a lot to check out, whether you want to watch a sporting event or you want to participate. We have a number of different city and county recreation groups, sports and social clubs. We end up having a lot of Hopkins teams that form, and it's like, oh, the MPH class is doing a kickball team or something like that. So very, very sports-related town. You guys have already heard opening day today. Woohoo! Baltimore is very close to other places that give you an opportunity to have fabulous day trips, weekend trips. So if you could never explore all there is in Baltimore, so I encourage you to spend time in the city going around. But if there's other places that you want to check out, or if you have loved ones, family, friends that happen to be nearby, we are a hop, skip, and a jump away from a lot of these different locations for you to go out and explore. Okay, so housing resources. I think you guys have already heard that today there is a housing fair over at Turner Auditorium. I think it goes until 4:30. I'll encourage you to go and check that out if you have an opportunity to do so. We also have our Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions has a housing office where they're posting about housing that's available, people looking for housing, people that have rooms available, looking for roommates, and all that kind of good stuff. You can find that in our Hopkins Gazette. The Baltimore newspaper is the Baltimore Sun. There's an organization called Live Baltimore, and Live Baltimore, I'd say check out their website because they actually have descriptions of all the different neighborhoods. So we often say that Baltimore is a city of neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods tend to have different personalities. So I oftentimes talk to a person about their interests and what their hobbies are, and I might say, oh, wow, you might want to live in Station North because that sounds like the place for you. So it's really interesting to learn a little bit more about the cultures and the things that are going on in the neighborhoods to find a place to live. Craigslist is another thing. A lot of our students have found things on Craigslist. And then I've just listed here, and you'll hear about this today from some of our students that'll be coming up momentarily, just some of those neighborhoods that tend to be a little popular. And again, oftentimes because of their proximity to that free Hopkins shuttle to help you get here. Some other resources that I just wanted to quickly share with you. So if you're coming here and you need to find a place of worship, we can connect you to those resources. If you're coming here and you have a family and you have childcare needs or need to find a place for your child or children to go to school, again, lots of different resources to connect you and support our students, faculty, and staff. And then, of course, we have a lot of different parks that are around town for recreation, bicycling, walking your dogs, or just going out for a nice jog. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I see some of my folks waiting in the wings to come join me on stage for our quick student panel discussion about living in Baltimore. So you guys come on up. Talk amongst yourselves.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Yes?
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Today, you're going to hear from all of our panelists a little bit about the neighborhoods where they live. Good. I will also show a map for you guys, and we'll be pointing out where these different neighborhoods are. We're really just going to do a quick little introduction for you guys about these students and the neighborhoods where they live in, and then most of the time, as I said before, we're going to give to you guys to ask your questions. But a couple things that I want to point out kind of quickly on this map that I have here, which is in your packets, right? There we go. So this is a map of part of Baltimore City. You see there's some red lines here. So this red line here, this is Charles Street. This is one of our main streets in the city, and it divides our city in half from the east side to the west side, okay? Then you have Baltimore Street down here. And Baltimore Street is what divides our city between the north side and the south side. So those of us that are native Baltimore's, hi Chuck, basically what we end up doing is saying, I'm going to meet you on the northeast corner, and I know exactly what I'm talking about of that intersection because I know where I'm divided between Charles Street and Baltimore Street. And this lovely star right here, that's the Bloomberg School of Public Health. So we'll be able to tell you where things are located in proximity. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'll start with Sunny, but let me give the instructions. I'm going to have each panelist, you guys have each about 2 minutes. I want you to say your name, your degree program, and or department, depending on your program, your neighborhood. Talk a little bit about like what your housing is, like describe your housing situation, and then what you like about your neighborhood. Okay, so Sunny, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so I'm in the MPH program. I'm customizing. I live in Butchers Hill, which is about a 10 to 15 minute walk from campus. I live in a house. I have 2 housemates. We have like a little backyard, and what I love about Butchers Hill is that one, it's in walking distance. It's really close to Patterson Park, so you can run, walk your dog. During the wintertime when it's snowing, you can go sledding there. What's also really nice is that there are a lot of students who live in like Butchers Hill, Fells, Patterson Park area. So one of our classmates started the PPPP, which is like the Patterson Park Party People Facebook group. And actually people will say cookies are coming out at 8 p.m. you can come and grab fresh cookies. So it's a really great sense of community. And then there's also a farmer's market. There are a lot of neighborhood bars and restaurants. So it's a great place to live.
Good morning, I'm Cam. I am an MSPH student in the Department of International Health with a concentration in health systems. I live in Charles Village, so about 3 miles north of here. I live in a townhouse, I guess that's really popular here in Baltimore. I share an apartment with another young student. One of my favorite things about Charles Village is the year-round farmers market in Waverly. I love the atmosphere there and the people that we get to meet. And then it's also right near the undergraduate campus, so I have all of the amenities right near me for studying and other sorts of events that college students partake in.
I'm Jessica. I'm an MPH student, and I live in Fells Point, so close to Sunny. I'm also in the PPP, however many P's there are. But Fells Point is closer to the water, which I love. I live like a block and a half from the water, and there's like a little trail that people run on and walk on. So I think that's really nice. Like, you can see all the boats, and just really close to the restaurants and bars. Almost every time I'm meeting up with people, it's like within a couple blocks from my house. So that makes it really easy. And it's also still walking distance. It's like a little over a mile just straight down Wolf Street. So I walk most of the time, or take the circulator if it's raining or other bad weather. I live in a row home. We have the whole house, and there's 4 bedrooms. So it's a little crazy. It's a little busy, but it's nice that we can live in like a home just like next door to us are families with little kids. So that's really nice instead of living more like dorm style. And we have a little backyard. It's all brick, so no like grass, but it's still nice, and it's still really close to Patterson Park. So I think my favorite part is just being so close to like restaurants and fun things going on in the farmers market and things like that.
All right, everybody. Hi, I'm Katie. I am an MD PhD student. I've been in Baltimore for 5 years. I currently live in Mount Vernon. I live in a high-rise apartment building, which I really like. It's called Horizon House. So what else? I love Mount Vernon. I lived on campus my first year here, and then decided that Mount Vernon was the best fit for me. It's my current apartment is about 5 blocks from both Peabody and the Penn Station shuttle stops, which is nice and convenient. And then what else should I say? I love Mount Vernon because there's tons of restaurants. There are tons of just things to do in general. So Center Stage is one of the theaters that Mindy mentioned. It's about 5 blocks away from my house, and they have young professional passes for anyone between, I think it's 18 up to 30. It might even be 35. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like $50 for the entire year, and you can go see any play for free. So my husband and I both have one, and it's awesome. And then we're also members at the Reginald F. Lewis African American History Museum. So you get free entry to the museum, but they also have all kinds of events. So we went to see a documentary screening about the Freedom Riders, and there were actual Freedom Riders there on a panel, which was awesome. We also went to see some jazz there. They have just a ton of things that are kind of awesome. So look out for memberships, especially for young professionals. There are tons. One of my friends has a membership to the BSO, which is also in Mount Vernon, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. And so she can go free at any time and bring a guest with her for a discount. One time I got a free ticket, which was awesome. So yeah, I love living in Mount Vernon. It's very walkable. It has one of the highest walk scores in the country, actually. I think it's up there with a lot of the different New York neighborhoods. So it's a fun time. And if you end up living in Mount Vernon, I'd be happy to give you a tour.
Hi, I'm Isabella. I'm also in the MPH program. Before I forget, because I'm going to talk about Canton, I just went to Center Stage for the first time with Sunny, and it was amazing. So if you do come, you shouldn't wait till the end of the year to do that. So just a little note. So I live in Canton. It's an area right over there. So it's basically I live like a few blocks from Patterson Park and a few blocks from the water. So it's kind of amazing because you have both of those right there. So I love going for runs along the water, sometimes in the park, but usually along the water because it's just really beautiful. There's a really nice path. I mean, it's the same path if you're in Fells or in Canton. And so I live in a row home with a girl that I knew from college who's been living here for a while. So that's how I ended up there. We just have a really lovely house. It's just the two of us. I know most of my neighbors. They all are very lovely. They all have dogs. It's just like a nice neighborhood feel. We also have an amazing roof deck with like 360 views of the city, which for a large portion of the year you can't use, but when you can, it's amazing. And that, I think, is one of the highlights of Canton, is that a lot of the houses have these really amazing roof decks, which you can barbecue on and just do fun things. What else? There's also the Canton Square, which is actually just a couple blocks down from where my house is. There's lots of restaurants and bars, frozen yogurt, nail salon, just all the things that you need, or that you might need, that I need. And then lots of little corner bars and just different fun places. The thing that I really like about Canton is that it's just really easy to walk around. And I just moved here from New York, so I love New York. It's amazing. But when I'm in Canton and when I'm in Baltimore, it just feels a lot more mellow and less stressful to walk around my neighborhood and just kind of get where I want to go, and just kind of enjoy the feeling of the city, which I absolutely love. And I think that Baltimore gets different reputations, and I'm so sad to leave. So I'm not leaving yet, but Canton is lovely.
Hi, I'm Gotham. I guess I live on campus at the 929 apartment building. I'm sure you've seen it if you walk down. It's 2 blocks down from here, so it's very convenient. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, but they have 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom studio, 4-bedroom apartment options. I opted for that because I knew I would be on campus a lot. I'm in SCM in the biochemistry and molecular biology department, so first year was a lot of classes, and this year I just work in a lab all the time, so now I don't have to worry about taking shuttles or walking late at night because I can just walk 2 blocks and I'm home already. In terms of amenities, they have a little gym. They have security, front door, everything. If you want, you can just take a walk to the gym around here. I think it's on the Cooley Center, so it's just a 5-minute walk. In terms of transportation and everything, you get the Hopkins shuttle right here. The circulator has 2 stops around here, one right in front of the hospital and one literally right in front of 929. So if you ever need to go grocery shopping or get around the city, then you can just hop right on there. We can also, the subway stop is also around here, so you can just hop from here downtown. In terms of experience, I think there's a pretty big swath of people that live at 929, from MPH students to to the MD students to all different kinds of master students, and a lot of them choose it because of the amenities and I guess the comfort of living not too far away from where you have to be all the time. And if you still like the neighborhood, which is called the Middle East, then there's still a couple of blocks over on Broadway. I have friends that live in row houses and different kind of housing arrangements, and it's a little cheaper, or a lot cheaper, and it's still pretty great. So it's not too far from campus. You can be around here anytime and walk around anytime, day or night. Just be safe.
Great. Thanks, Gotham. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're being recorded for people that are not able to join us live. So I'm going to take questions from you all. I'm going to repeat the questions before I let my panelists respond. We don't need to have everybody on the panel answer every question. Once we feel like we've gotten the appropriate question answered, that's fine, and just feel free to pass the mic along. One thing that I'm going to point out about the panelists that you see before you, they've all said great things about the city and loving the city and not wanting to leave. Isabel, you don't have to leave. So one of the things that I say is that they've been involved in the community. They've been involved with community engagement activities, and they have a lot of experience doing that type of work. So we encourage you to go out and explore the city, work with the nonprofits, because you're going to really understand and see the city a lot better. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all for questions that you might have of the panelists. Right up front.
What was your timeline for looking for and then finding an apartment?
The question is, what was your timeline for looking for and then finding your apartment or your housing?
I started looking at Admitted Students Day when I came here. I went to 929 right after one of the last things. I just walked over, and Then I actually had a friend, kind of complicated story, but just basically just like through friends of friends, and she was living here, so she did all the looking for me. So that was really convenient, and that's probably the only reason I'm not living at 929. So I was just like, oh, it's easy, it's nice. But she just like knew the area a lot better, and she found it within like 2 months, just like on Craigslist, and then she would just go visit the various places.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. I am from Denver, so coming to Baltimore to look for apartments was not an option for me. But I had a friend, my roommate is from the DC area, so she was able to come up. We had been communicating via email about Craigslist postings, and she found an apartment in June, and we moved in August.
I also use the Friend Connection. I'm from San Francisco, and Craigslist scarred me, so I just don't believe in Craigslist. So I just went through my friend network, especially from students from last year, and tried to find housing that way. So I think I found it like maybe a month beforehand.
One really great resource that wasn't available when I first came here is the JHMI website that Mindy mentioned. And even though I didn't use that to find my own housing, I found a lot of roommates that way. So there are tons of people, especially if you're coming from out of the country or out of state, who are looking for roommates. Their roommates are leaving. And so I found like 3 roommates, because I used to live in a 3-bedroom apartment. Now I live in a studio. But when I lived in my 3-bedroom, I was always looking for people to come stay with me. Because, you know, if someone is in a 1-year program, they want something quick. They don't want to have to be stressed out about it. And you have the comfort of knowing that a lot of the people who are on there are also students or sometimes staff and faculty here at the university.
Great. I'm going to take another question right there. So the question was, when you're talking about Canton, how do you get to school every day? Is there transportation?
Yeah, so I realized I forgot to mention that. So I have my car here, and a few of my friends who live like a few blocks away from me who also live in Canton also have cars. Another friend who lives in Canton doesn't have a car, and she, I think, either walks or takes the bus. I tried to do that for the first couple of weeks before my car got here from Los Angeles, and it was a little bit time consuming for me because the bus doesn't exactly come necessarily when it says it will. There's not amazing transportation in Canton. The circulator doesn't go to Canton. There's no subway in Canton, and
Yeah, there's an employee shuttle. Yeah.
so there's a shuttle that goes. I took it sometimes leaving campus to get home, but I could never quite figure out how to get to school on it. So I don't.
Yeah.
The employee shuttles, there are a few, and they run sort of like during commuting hours, so like 6 a.m. to like 9 a.m. or something like that, maybe 10, and then they start back up again maybe around 4, and they go to like 5:30 or 6. And I had a friend who lived in Canton who did that while we were in med school. The only challenge was if you needed to stay late on campus, but then she would either go home and get her car on an earlier shuttle, or she would have the option of carpooling or finding a friend.
Yeah, and just the other thing is a lot of people have bikes, and so I have other friends who live in Canton who just bike most days. For me, it was a little bit hard because it's a bit uphill.
And the biking option is kind of
It's
cool
really
because
nice.
we actually have a bike rack that's here with like under the building within our garage that it's guarded by a guard at all times. So it's a really easy place. You don't ever have to worry about your bike.
Yeah. And it's not far.
Yeah. All right. Other questions? I'm going to go towards the back right there. You. Yep. So the question is, if I may, biking to campus, how do you feel about it, whether you bike or your friends bike, in terms of safety and all that kind of stuff around town with bikes?
Yeah, I have tons of friends who bike. I don't bike. I mean, I bike for fun, but not to commute. I'm not as much of a road warrior, but one of my closest friends from med school would bike to campus pretty much every day, even when he was in the hospital. Max. And also one of my friends in my PhD cohort who lived in a neighborhood that most people don't live in on the west. Nobody here lives in, I should say, on the west side towards where the B&O, what neighborhood is that? B&O Railroad Museum?
He lives down near, he's like bordering Pigtown.
Yeah, so sort of in Pigtown. But anyway, long story short is she would bike to Hopkins every day. And it's fun. There's a huge biking community here. They have like this end of the month bike party where like you'll see tons and tons of people, like literally like hundreds of people biking together throughout the city. And I think, you have to be city smart. You said you bike around DC. So it's the kind of the same thing as any city. You have to watch your back, make sure that you have on the proper gear, reflectors, things that make sure that people can see you, and just generally be city smart. But
yeah, that's great. All right, some other questions. I'm going to go to the sides because I've been. So her question is, what are some activities that you do outside of class, volunteering, internships, the like?
Well, Source actually has a lot of the different kinds of programs, and one of the things that we do is like an HIV counseling program. So we get partnered up with different like sites or different like things like the Hopkins Emergency Department or like a Sisters Together and Reaching, another organization in the community here, and we just find different ways to do HIV outreach, counseling, education, and that kind of thing.
I do my practicum at the Healthy Teen Network, which is right next to Penn Station, and so I've just been helping them do research and various program things, but it's really convenient because I just come from school and then take the Hopkins shuttle to Penn Station, and then it's like across the street, so it's super easy, and that runs like all the time, so I can just take it right back too, and sometimes I like fit it in right in between classes because the shuttle runs so often, so that's really nice.
I volunteer at an elementary school in Upper Fells Point, I guess would be what it would be. And so I do that on Tuesdays and Fridays this term. But right before classes started, I kind of composed a bucket list of things to do in Baltimore. And so my roommate and I, we fill up our time doing that.
Maybe one more? Sunny?
So I'm doing my practicum at a permanent supportive housing in Baltimore. But besides the volunteering, there's actually a lot of lecture series. There's a lot of community meetings. So I try to go out to them if possible. So there's a bookstore called Red Emma's, and they have a lot of screenings and talks. I also go to the public library sometimes. There was recently a really great talk on race, and I also do I like to go to a lot of arts events, so I have the membership to Center Stage. There's a lot of like underground warehouses with artists. Charles Theater is amazing. It has a bunch of independent films. So there's a lot to do here.
Great. All right, let me take some more questions way in the back. Okay, so the question is 929 the only graduate student housing? Does it come furnished? And can you put your own bed in it? So, Gotham, since you live there, I'm going to give that to you, my friend.
I can answer the second part of that better. You can get the furnished or unfurnished versions. I think there's a slight difference in price. But if you get the unfurnished version, then you get your own. You have to bring everything in yourself, like your bed and everything. If you get the furnished version, they give you a desk, a chair, a bed, and I think a dresser. So in terms of if it's the only graduate housing, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's other things that are being developed around East Baltimore that aren't necessarily just graduate student housing. You might have seen Jefferson Square, which is starting to book not fill, they're only at 30%, but faculty, staff, other people in the community, so it's not just graduate student housing. That's 929 is really meant to be graduate student housing. Yeah. All right, right in the middle. Great. Okay, so a couple of things. This is about parking. Do you have a car? Do you need a car? Do you not need a car? Thompson, can I have you come on up and talk about parking real quick? Because he's our expert on rates for parking on campus. And then I'll turn it over to you guys about like parking in the neighborhood, because you can do either way.
How you doing? My name is Thompson. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. In terms of parking, perfect. In terms of parking, I think it's a great way if you decide to use that as a means of transportation, because we have an address here. It's called 1600 East Baltimore Street. That's where you can actually park. And in terms of the price, it is $55 a month, but we do charge by term. When your when your tuition is due is exactly when your payments will be due. So let's say for the month of June and July, you're gonna owe exactly $110. So if you decide to, and cancellation is, you can cancel at any time actually. So if after a month you decide that you don't want to continue, it's fine. We'll just make sure we refund you the other $55. But make sure you let us know before the 15th of any month for that. Did I get all the questions?
Yeah. So what I would say about that is, as he mentioned, $55 a month. That is for like parking at Hopkins if you're using one of our Hopkins lots. And then we have a shuttle that runs like constantly from that shuttle to campus. So in the morning hours and the evening hours, like, you know, that heavy commuter time, it's like every 10 minutes. But then other times during the day, it might be every like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, those kind of things. So that's to park at Hopkins. Like you can't park and get a parking pass to be right here on the garage that you might see, because that's all faculty and staff and filled and people are elsewhere. So
let me add to this. Somebody made mention of MTA pass. Yeah, for that you can actually get it for $39 as opposed to a $64. So it's a $25 discount. You can actually purchase that at the student account office. I'll be there to sell it for you whenever you're ready. And I mean, every cent counts. So $25 is a lot. I've seen a lot of students showing up, and they say it's a great deal. I mean, I personally, I don't attend this school, but I live in Owings Mills. I don't get the option, just like you guys, to get it for $39. But it's a really great way to save some money every month.
And Thompson, you take the subway to work?
Yeah.
Yep. So
even though I just drive to Owings Mills Station. I think it's about 5 minutes from my place. Then take the subway to work. It's exactly 30 minutes there.
I think that's a really great point. We've been highlighting some of the neighborhoods in the city. You might not want to be a city dweller. You might want to live in the surrounding counties, and the subway or the metro comes right to the hospital. It's the very last stop, so you could certainly make that commute. All right, so you guys, let's kind of answer this question because I think it comes up about cars. Do you need a car? How many of you have cars? Okay. And a lot of people that have cars, they might never use their car to come to school, but then they have the car, and if they want to go grocery shopping or go somewhere else, then they use it, but it stays parked. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about parking at your places, which is different than the $55 a month for the campus parking? Okay, good. Thanks, Thompson.
Mount Vernon is not a fun place to park in, and it's very expensive. So sometimes I wish I didn't have my car, because I honestly use it. Like, I've had my car in Baltimore for 5 years. It has like 20,000 miles on it, and I've done a few road trips. I use my car in Baltimore probably like once a week, once every 2 weeks, for like groceries. So it can be expensive in the city. A lot of neighborhoods have better street parking, or you can get off-street parking included in your rent or whatever. But Mount Vernon is a challenge in terms of parking. But again, it's one of those neighborhoods that is more walkable and on the shuttle. So if you live in Mount Vernon, you don't 100% need it. And I have tons of friends who have done without.
So like I said, I live in Canton. I have my car. We have one parking space for our house, and so there's two of us. If you get to Canton like before 7 p.m., usually it's really easy to find street parking. And so usually between my roommate and I, like, it's usually fine, and it's free, and there's no like time limit on street parking. So it's actually quite easy. I didn't get the parking pass, so when I drive to school, I either park like 4 blocks down. You can leave your car all day, or I sometimes just park in the 2-hour parking and then move my car. So I'm like running back and forth. And then I would say I use my car pretty much every day. If I lived somewhere like Mount Vernon, I don't think I would want my car here or would need it at all. But I like having the flexibility of being able to go to Mount Vernon whenever I want and coming back late at night and not having to worry about public transportation, or going to other neighborhoods like Hamden, which we didn't talk about, which is a bit farther and has like tons of great restaurants and bars and other things. And also if you're just like wanting to go on a day trip or go out to a vineyard, 30 minutes away or whatever it is, it's nice to have a car. But if you don't, usually like you saw, some other people will, and so you can usually find someone who does if you need to go somewhere.
Great. So, and with the cars, what we'll recommend to people is, again, Katie mentioned before, be street smart. So if you're going to have a car, we recommend that you don't have things that are visible. Like if you're leaving your backpack, in your GPS out, a phone charger, those are things that people want. So just clear that stuff, take it inside with you, and don't leave it in your car, because otherwise it's a really easy opportunity to just smash a window and take your laptop with that person. All right, I have time for a couple more questions. So because I probably only have like maybe 2 or 3 questions, I only want the good questions. Right. Some hands went down, see? Right up here. Great question. So her question is about safety. Do you feel your neighborhoods are generally safe, and how do you feel about getting home at night, that kind of stuff. So one thing I'll just quickly mention is I would never label any of these communities, oh, it's safe to live there and not safe to live there, because things could happen anywhere. City, county, completely rural. So, there are neighborhoods that tend to be popular because students and faculty and staff live there. But again, things can happen in any neighborhood, so be advised of that. But generally speaking, can you guys respond to how you feel about safety in your neighborhoods?
I'll just briefly say I feel very safe in Canton, but also things have happened there. So just like you said, I feel comfortable walking around, but I have to be like just more alert when I'm alone if I'm walking somewhere at night.
Yeah, for me, I live on campus, so there's a Hopkins security net, and I never feel unsafe. They're all really cool.
Yeah, I would say that just walking around all of Baltimore in general, I've never felt uncomfortable. And someone once gave me this advice where when you're going into a new place, act like you belong there and that this is your house or your home. And I've really taken that to heart. Wherever I go, people are very welcoming here, and I've never felt unsafe anywhere.
One thing that people will say about Baltimore, particularly when I have people from like New York and Chicago, they're walking around Baltimore and people are smiling at them and saying hello. And they're like, what is this place? You're walking from home to campus and people are saying good morning. And they're like, I've just said good morning to 50 people. That never happens. When you go into some of our community organizations, you're used to like putting your hand out and shaking hands, and they're embracing you with open arms. So Baltimore is a friendly town. So just as Cam said, like being friendly, people are going to be talking to you. So it's a cultural shock for some people to get a little bit of that flavor in. But again, some safety tips, again, if you're coming home at night, don't go by yourself. If you find yourself on campus and you can't get home, you can always use Lyft or Uber or one of those things that are available to you as well that people do a lot. Chuck from Corporate Security, any other things that you want to add? As Gotham mentioned, we have great security officers, and Chuck is kind of the king of them.
I'm not really the king. I'm responsible for the School of Public Health. The outside officers are outstanding. I mean, there's a lot of availability for you folks. There's an on-call shuttle that will take you pretty much anywhere you have to go close to the campus and off campus. That number is going to be 555-85, and they're open 24/7. So if you have a problem, you call them. They'll be. Generally it's a nice place to be. You guys will be real comfortable here. I came here. I was astonished at the amount of work that the security officers do. I mean, they really go above and beyond, and you'll feel comfortable here. There's nothing, really to be worried about on campus.
Yeah. And just as we mentioned before, people are friendly. Like, say hello, ask them about themselves, ask them about their lives, etc. So I see Leslie doing her little peek in here, inching in. So what I will say is she's going to have a couple of announcements for you guys before we send you for lunch. The panelists are going to hang here, so if you have other questions, feel free to come on up and ask them a question. If you could join me in thanking our student panelists who are very busy to spend time with you. And I turn it back to Leslie.
Thanks, everybody. All right, so like Mindy said, I just have a few announcements to make real quick. logistically. What we're going to be doing now is getting ready to break up into our departmental afternoon lunch sessions. These sessions are throughout the building, and we actually have 2 departments that are down the street in Hampton House. So there's things are going to be ending. These sessions will end at different times. It's not necessarily a kind of cut end. Each department does its own thing. So what you're going to do is go up to Finestone Hall, where you had your breakfast earlier. You're going to pick up a boxed lunch and a beverage if you'd like, and take it with you and eat lunch with your department and faculty members. Health Policy and Management Department and Mental Health Department, we have student escorts to take you down to Hampton House. Health Policy and Management will be meeting right outside of this big screen out here. It's called the Wall of Wonder. And then Mental Health Department will be meeting where you picked up your packets this morning. So just in the gallery, just at opposite ends. And like I said, we'll have student escorts to take you down to Hampton House. I did want to make quick note of everything else that's going on this afternoon. We do have campus tours that you can take. If you came to one of our 3 o'clock p.m. Friday afternoon tours before, it's the same thing. You can certainly take it again. But just so you know, it's just of the building, and it'll take about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your tour guide. We also included in your packet personal walking tours, which really takes you throughout the campus. You may not have time to do it today, but you also can just read through it. It has a lot of information for you as well. The information fair that I mentioned earlier will be in Anna Bacher, which is that room that when one of the Bloomberg seminar series was in, just down the hall. We're going to have admission services there. We have outside Baltimore city vendors that'll be there as well to talk to you about life in Baltimore and things like that. And then last but not least, the reception. We hope you all can join us. It'll be 4 o'clock out here in the Wall of Wonder area. Please hold your badge because our students do have little Twitter accounts and stuff. We're telling them where the free food is. So we want this to be for you. They're allowed to come in at 5:30, but we want it to be for you. But we'll have faculty and staff there. We love them, but they're already here. So anyway, we hope you all can join us before you head out for the day. And again, pick any of us if you have any questions. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks again for joining us.